Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Chris Matejka from Ohio Northern University. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I got that soft spot for the Ohio schools, having grown up not too far from Ohio Northern. But let's talk about recruiting side of things to start off. We're talking here at the end of March. So for a D3 school like yourself, is your 23 class kind of wrapped up and you're moving on to 24s, or what's kind of your timeline when you're recruiting around now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this time of year, we're doing both classes, but we're pretty much done with the 23 class. We were lucky enough to get a pretty good jump start on it. But we typically, 2024 wise and juniors, we have them visit, sometime between January and March for the first time that they can come onto campus. And then, we'll invite them back several times. But we're kind of in that stage now where we're wrapping up 23 and just having the 24s visit and get exposed to the campus and learn more about us.
So when you're recruiting, I mean, is it primarily the pool kind of starts when kids reach out to you with interest, or are you reaching out to high school coaches and club coaches and seeing kids at tournament? Kind of what's that mix look like?
Yeah, the pool is based on, I think, a couple different things. It depends on the club, it depends on the region that they're from, but there is a good amount of us reaching out to club coaches, club directors, just getting schedules tracked down. There's so many leagues and so many competitions now that we have to juggle all of that at the forefront and just know going in, okay, this is how we're heading the recruiting class. We're going to try and get to as many showcases as we can, but I'd say it's a good mix of those that reach out to us and us that we reach out to the individuals, or we reach out to the club coach. Hey, who do you recommend? We're really looking for a goalkeeper. We're really looking for a top goal scorer. Whatever the case may be, whatever positional need we have, we're going to try and communicate at the forefront and try and get a kickstart on that. But if somebody does reach out to us and we get their schedule and we like what we see, then obviously they get added into our recruiting pool and in the recruiting class.
You mentioned showcases. So are there kind of the tournaments that are on your must visit list each year that you're going to look at players?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it's evolved, it's changed a little bit over the years, but the big ones, any National League event, any ECNL event are the big ones that we'll circle every year and add to the calendar. I think MLS Next is really starting to gain a lot of attention, and a lot more college coaches are going to that across all divisions. It's not just Division One. I mean, I think the last few MLS Next events I've gone to, there's been a good amount of Division Three and NAIA and Division Two schools as well. I think for showcases though, Crossroads, Blue Chip in Ohio, or, Indianapolis, Ohio. Um, the Jefferson Cup is next weekend, so we're going to do our best to get to that. But yeah, any of the big Midwest showcases are always on our calendar.
So, and I'm asking this because I will probably take this and clip it out and post it for people because it's something I want to make sure folks understand. When you go to an event, let's say you're going to Jeff Cup next weekend, what is the ratio of players that you're going to see because there's been some contact ahead of time versus randomly taking in a match and finding a player that looks interesting to you?
Without really, I haven't gotten into the schedule too much of that event, but a typical event, I mean, I'm gonna put out, I'm gonna circle all the teams in our region first. That's kind of my strategy. That's kind of how our staff handles it. We look at the best clubs in our area, the best clubs in our region. Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, maybe some Illinois, and we'll try and see them first. And obviously anybody that we've had on campus before, they're going to be at the front of our list. I would say it's probably 75% of players that we've identified or that we've seen already, or top clubs that we know of, or maybe there's a club director or club coach that's reached out to us about a certain player. That'll be the bulk of the teams and games that we see. I would say we probably save 25% of our time to go watch a random game, or a team that we've never heard of before, or maybe it's the field side by side of the one that we're at. we might be able to stay and watch a game or two. But it's primarily the bulk of it is those that we've identified before already, maybe some of those that have reached out to us, or just the top clubs in our area.
Okay, perfect. Well, whether it, I guess before I ask the next question, in terms of recruiting, do you guys do camps? Do you or your staff work other camps? How do camps fit into the whole process for you?
Yeah, camps are a huge part, especially recruiting wise. It's awesome to get some of our top prospects onto campus, get to work with our staff, get to meet some of our current players that might be working the event. But we have two ID camps in the summer. We have one in June. It's June 20th through the 22nd, and then we have a July 18th through the 20th ID camp as well. So we put together two over the summer. And then we'll eventually put one together in the winter as well for those that maybe couldn't attend over the summer. They had regionals or nationals or vacation or high school stuff going on in the summer. We'll put one on in the winter. But those are 3-day camps. They're overnight camps, and they get exposed to the campus. They get exposed to what the next level is like. It's not it's just our staff, so they really get to work with us for 3 days. They get to know what our sessions are like, how we operate, what we look for in a player. Obviously, have some classroom sessions thrown in there as well. It's not just field sessions. But by the end of that camp, they pretty much know, okay, this is what ONU is like. This is what their coaching staff is like. This is how they handle a training session. This is how they get the most out of a training session. So that's what we look to do.
Well, don't forget to post those camps on Discover College Soccer.
For sure.
Well, whether it's at camp, showcase, anything, what kind of makes up the hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player, whether that's off the field stuff or on the field attributes?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of head this with just talking about when I go to a game to scout a player or a team. I try to get to warmups. I try to get to the early stage of a game if I can, but sometimes I'm not always able to do that. So I have to fit in a hierarchy of things that I like out of a player individually. I think it always starts with the technical side, technical ability, first touch, control, overall awareness, vision. Um, but being composed, I think, are all super important. And if I can see that in one or two plays, I think they kind of stand out to me. It doesn't take me a whole lot of time to figure out, okay, this guy can play for me, or he can play for us and help us. But that's kind of where it starts, is the technical side. I mean, we always try and put together the most technical players on the field. We try and put the most technical side out there. I think athleticism kind of comes in secondary. I'm not really looking at the tallest player necessarily, but somebody that can withstand the rigors of the game. They have good lateral movement. They obviously are physical enough to handle the college game, because not everybody is ready for that. So we look at that athleticism, obviously their speed, their agility, their fitness. But going back to my initial point about watching them warm up, I can see a lot of that, but what I also see is their character. I see, are they the first to show up? Are they the one leading the charge? Are they the ones, getting their team warmed up and ready to go? Or are they the guy that's last to step on the field? Are they, they're last to put their shin guards on? Their coaches having to get on them about showing up on time. Are they on their phone when everybody else is on the field? I mean, there's a lot of things that we as college coaches have to take in and witness. And if I can't go to a game, and maybe I go to a training session or some sort of combine or ID camp that's not on our campus, I'm looking at those things. Like, most of the time I'm not watching them on the ball. I'm watching what they do without the ball. So I think that's one of the things that recruits and families, their parents alike, don't understand, is that sometimes I'm not even there to watch them play with the ball. I'm watching their demeanor. I'm watching how they carry themselves. Are they uplifting, or are they super negative? Are they a detriment to their team? Are they, working alongside their coach? There's a lot of intangibles that we look at, and sometimes we take it in a short snapshot. I mean, I might not be able to watch a player for 90 minutes. So if I can see that in a 10-minute chunk, okay, I'll circle them and then obviously come back to it later and watch them play again. And if they replicate that, then obviously I think that they're going to be a good fit for us. If they are a total, maybe they're coming back from an injury and I don't know that, then I like to see them a third time or a fourth time before I feel pretty confident that, okay, this guy can help us.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. Obviously, I'm very familiar with Ohio Northern, but I'm sure there's some folks out there who aren't. So You have a unique perspective. I think you've been there for quite a few years, if you include your stint as an undergrad, right? So,
Yep.
um, kind of give us what are some of the things that you find are awesome about the school that maybe I'm not going to learn just by clicking through the website.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that stands out um, is our location. So a lot of schools, especially in our conference, are in heavily populated, metropolitan areas where there's a ton of people around. There's a ton of things to do. ONU's kind of nestled in a, pocket of Northwest Ohio. We're an hour and a half from some big cities. We're an hour and a half from Columbus. Um, close to 2 hours from Detroit, 2 hours from Cleveland. Um, we're not too far away from some of the more populated areas where the top clubs are playing, and the bulk of our roster is made of guys from those areas. But we love our location. We love our area. We're kind of secluded and remote in a small town. It really allows our students and student athletes to focus on what they need to do. I think we have a track record of both academics and athletics, so we become a really good balance of both. But I think that's kind of the thing that I like to start with, because nobody really knows where Ada, Ohio is. We love being in a small town. We love being in the middle of nowhere. A lot of people can view that as a negative. Honestly, for me, it's a positive. There's less distractions. It's very safe. The campus is incredibly safe. And really, again, you're set out to get a degree in 4 years or 6 years if you're a pharmacy student, and everybody graduates on time. And I think our job placement really speaks for itself. The return on investment speaks for itself. So we've got a lot of top professional degrees that really stand out from the typical liberal arts type of a school. We've got 4 colleges that make up the university, so we're a pretty unique school. We've got some top academic, top you know students that want to be the best students that they can be here. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody's going to push you and challenge you, and it's a really remarkable environment. It's a very challenging environment, and I think that translates well to the soccer field. Soccer players in general have really good grades, and if we're recruiting the right type of person that is a good person, is a good student, they're going to fit in really well here. And before they even step on the field, they're already challenged every single day. And I think that just that speaks volumes, because when we're playing in a big game, we know that these student athletes can handle um, adversity, handle time management, handle the rigors of being a college student day in and day out, being in a challenging environment. So it's honestly pretty easy once we get into a training situation. I mean, they're pushed and pulled and dragged every certain direction. We know what we're going to get from them every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you mentioned the academic rigors. So, for a lot of college athletes, especially, ones that are just coming from high school, it can be challenging balancing the academics with the athletics. So, what do you guys do to really help with that balance, and what support systems does the school offer to help your student athletes?
Yeah, so each college within our university kind of handles it differently. There are um, and honestly, we don't run into a lot of academic issues. We don't really we recruit really good students. Our team GPA was a 3.31 last semester in the fall. So honestly, we don't run into a lot of guys that are struggling or falling behind. We see their midterm grades, and obviously we check over those things, but we don't do study tables. We don't believe in just checking on grades every week and every day. Like, obviously, if somebody's falling behind, there's a ton of resources on campus. I think the main one is just approaching their professor, forming a really good relationship with the professor. And I think we give them tools from an early stage that's one of the most important relationships you're going to have on campus from day one, is just forming a really good rapport with your professors. And not only that, your advisor is going to help you as well. There's tutoring sessions available. There's office hours that each professor is going to put on. But again, I think the resources that they're going to tap into are individual to that college. A college of business student is going to be totally different than a college of pharmacy student. But if somebody is falling behind, obviously they can turn to the coaching staff. But we put a lot of the responsibility on their shoulders as students, and they knock it out of the park. They do a really good job. If they do fall behind, my first question to them is, did you approach your professor? Did you talk to him or her about what you're struggling in? Did you go over all the notes? Did you talk to your teammates? A lot of your teammates that you're taking class with, are you forming a good relationship with the upperclassmen that have already done those classes? Can you get notes or textbooks or previous exams and things like that you can study off of? So there's a lot of work that we do behind the scenes, but honestly, it's on the student, and I think that's what's necessary. That if they're going to be responsible for their schoolwork, I think they're going to handle life that much better off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do me a favor, take me back to the fall, and give me a typical week in a snapshot, right? When are your student athletes waking up, going to class, going to practice? What's kind of the game cadence like? What does a typical week look like?
Yeah, typical week. So most of our games, especially in the conference, are Wednesdays and Saturdays. So, but a typical day is, they're going to class from 8 a.m. until 2:50, pretty much every single day. 3 o'clock is when they usually show up to the locker room, maybe a little bit earlier if they're done with class. Maybe they need to get some treatment from the AT room. Maybe they just want to hang out in the locker room and catch up with the teammates. But typically 3:15, we're starting with a team meeting. We'll watch some film. We'll talk about the week's goals. We'll reflect on the previous game or the previous training session, and just really put things out there, communicate. That's our time to provide updates, and really just kind of switch off, so to speak, from classes and really get focused on what the task is at hand. If it's practice or a game, the locker room is where we just kind of get everything out there, air everything out. But 3:15, we're done with that. 3:45, maybe 4 o'clock at the latest if we have an extensive scouting report on an opponent, and then we're on the field about 4. We're done by 5:45. They're showered, ready to go to dinner at 6, and then the rest of the day is off for them to catch up on schoolwork, hang out with their roommates, or just have a lot more free time. And yeah, so that's a typical day. Obviously, again, games. A lot of our midweek games are at 7 o'clock, so we're getting into the locker room right around that same time. We're usually starting our warm up about an hour and 15 before a game, or at least we're having a team meeting at that time, and we're stepping on the field about an hour before kickoff, having about a 45-minute warm up session. In that team meeting before the game, we're probably going to reflect on our scouting report that we put together the day before. So our line of thinking is 2 days before a game, we're working on ourselves. We're diving into things and topics that are relevant to us, our strengths and our weaknesses, things that we need to work on. And then the day before a game is pretty much solely based on the opponent, what they're going to give us, what it's going to take to break them down, what kind of set pieces we're going to look at, things like that. And then obviously game day, we're going to try and take care of business. And then we repeat that cycle again. Thursday, day after a game, we're working on ourselves. And then Friday, the day before Saturday, we're working on our opponent again. Sunday is our day off. That's our recuperating recovery day.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team, and I guess this kind of goes back a little bit to recruiting. But is there a roster size that you find is ideal that you guys are trying to hit every year?
Yeah, I think we're unique. We have a pretty large squad. So we have about 45 typically. We name a varsity training pool of roughly 30, 30 to 32, and then roughly with reserves, our reserve team who plays a separate schedule, they have games of their own, training on their own, is usually around 15. It's a really, really good number for us. What's pretty common at this level is injuries. And I think if we expect to stay in the top 25, compete for a national championship every year, compete for conference championship every year, we have to have a much deeper squad. Everybody has to be ready to go. I think, if we look back at 2 seasons ago, we had close to 42 injuries. Last season, which was an average number of injuries, we had 30. So we're able to have a next man up mentality, but we have a larger squad because we want to have a deeper squad, and it really helps us. So that's our number of what we look for every year, about 45. But from a typical recruiting class, I mean, it's 8 to 10 roughly. I mean, there might be a couple, transfers that come in, or it kind of depends each year, but usually 8 to 10 is what we look to bring in each year.
Okay. Well, what about staff? How big is your staff? What role does everybody play? What other kind of support staff works with your team from the athletic department?
Yeah, for sure. We have 3 full-time coaches, myself, and then we have 2 full-time assistant coaches. Then we have a part-time goalkeeper trainer, who's pretty much working with our goalkeepers every single day during the fall, almost every single day in the spring as well. We also have a strength and conditioning coordinator that works with several teams within our department, but sets time aside in the off season and during the season to make sure that our guys are recovered well. And it's one of the main reasons why we went down in injuries this past year, is we invested a lot more time and effort into the strength and conditioning regime over the summer and into the off season. And it's really helped us. We have an athletic trainer full time that's with us every single day at every training session, every game, both home and away. We have student managers that work with us. We have, I think, three student managers. So any film needs that we have, both on the road, at home, um, equipment management, apparel. We have catapult vests that we use. So we do a lot of monitoring of mileage and work rate over the course of the season. So we can kind of dive into the statistics a little bit more with our student managers helping us. So we have a pretty large staff, but it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, we have high expectations, but we have a lot of people helping us. So there's a reason why we're successful. It's due to credit to the staff that works hard every single day, both in season and out of season.
Yeah, no, that's for a Division III program. That's an amazing staff. I think a lot of a lot of coaches would be jealous of having those resources. So
Mhm.
so kudos, and I'm sure that is partly why you guys are so successful. I mean, third round of the NCAA this past year. That's awesome. Well, eh, let's talk about you specifically. Can you give me some insights into kind of your style of coaching and the style of play that you hope to have the team play?
Yeah, I'll start with kind of the character that I want to bring to the table every day. It's honest, it's upfront. Um, I tend to not sugarcoat things. I want to be very obvious in my approach. Um, Obviously, there's a diplomatic approach that some players can handle things differently. Some are, a little bit more aggressive. Some need a little bit more fire under them. Some are pretty laid back. I mean, every player is different, right? I mean, let's face it. There's no uh, two players that are exactly the same. So, but I'm always going to try and be the same as much as I can be. Most of the time, it's going to start with conversation. I'm a firm believer in communication. I think it's better to over communicate things, and I love to have individual meetings. I love to have small group meetings. I love to have team meetings. It's our chance to really connect from coach to player. But I think it always goes back to a conversation. Every issue, every problem, every good thing, every bad thing always can can come back to a conversation. So I have individual meetings often. I try and connect with each player every single day, both varsity and reserves. I think there's always an effort there. So, but it always goes back to honesty. I think that's one of the main ways to build trust is for me to just put it all out there. And I don't think there's any time for toxicity. There's no time for how come I'm not playing? How come that guy's playing more than me? Like we don't have time for that. I mean, it's a long, grueling season, but it's 100 miles an hour. I mean, every single day is just go, go, go. So we have to put it all out there. We have to maximize our time that we spend together. They are student athletes, so we have to recognize that as well. That they have their rigors that they have to go through the rest of the day. I understand that being an alum from here, understanding what their schedules look like and the academic demand of them. So I know that heading into that. So it's I can level with them a lot more. But I also want to get to the point and have them understand what we're looking for day in and day out. I think in terms of style of play, it's again we go back to the technical side of things. I think technical ability means everything, but we're going to try and put together a system that relies on possession. We want to dominate the game possession wise. We want to have the ball. We want the ball at our feet. That's the way that we recruit. We recruit technically gifted players, smart, high soccer IQ players that understand why we do film and why we put together scouting reports. But we also want a good mix of guys that just want to get the job done and want to and care a lot about the program and care a lot about the school and care a lot about the team and the program. So, I think it goes back to trust. We want to trust in each other. We want to trust in our teammates and trust our coaches. And but it always relies on possession. We want to possess. We want to put forth the best system that's going to help us win games. In some games that's different. It's a different formation or it's a different tactic. That's why we watch a lot of film. We make sure that our guys understand it though each day. So possession, but we want to dominate the game.
Okay. Well, Coach, you've been generous with your time. We've covered a lot of ground, and the way I like to end these is if you could give parents and players out there who are interested in playing college soccer one piece of advice, one nugget something that you hope that they know going into this process, what would that be?
Oof, spend a long time talking about that. Advice for parents: uh, be realistic. I understand, and coaches understand that club soccer is expensive, and that you want to see a return on investment. And I think there's a big push, especially at the bigger clubs, to get your son into a Division One program. You have to understand that there aren't that many Division One programs that are going to just take on an 18-year-old senior that, yeah, has club experience, that's played their whole life. There's a certain percentage of players that make it at that level. So do your research, but more importantly, be realistic. There's, for instance, 415 Division Three men's soccer teams. So there's a wide variety of teams out there that can, accommodate these young men, and everybody gets sold on that D1, D1, D1. Resources at the Division One level, yeah, are obviously greater than Division Two or Division Three, but the margins between all the divisions are not that large. And I think that's the one thing that parents don't really know that much about is what's the difference between D1 and D2 or D2, D3. And they kind of stack up. The D1 is always going to be the best. Yes, they have athletic scholarships, but the coaches have a lot more on their shoulders and pressure to win games. And if they don't win, they're gone. And so there's a lot of turnover at that level, and there's a lot of international students that play at that level, and there's only a 1 year guarantee that you're going to have that scholarship, and so there's just certain nuances of all the divisions that the parents aren't always taught, and sometimes the recruits themselves aren't always taught. So just be open-minded, be realistic, and do your research. Those I know you asked me for one, but I kind of gave three there.
That's all
Um,
right. I'll take
be
it.
realistic, do your research, and be open-minded. I think are the three things that I want to say.
I couldn't have said it better, Coach. I really appreciate your time. Wish you the best of luck in getting back to the tournament in the fall. And if you ever do any recruiting down here in Florida, give me a shout and we'll get together. All right.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks for this.
Yeah. Thank you.